The Toronto Blue Jays have responded after some comments from Kevin Gausman in earlier days and some rough losses in recent games. I mean, back-to-back games with 9 runs, no one's going to be complaining about that. The offense has responded and they've woken up. So I'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Hopefully, you all enjoyed the second half of that game that we saw today because there were some technical difficulties. And Nick, you and I were both going nuts about this. Dan Shulman and Joe Siddall were calling the game off their phones in the middle innings, and it was totally nuts. Like for 3 or 4 innings or so, they were just calling into the Sportsnet studios, and it sounded like they were. I couldn't make it out to be like, what is this? What is this? And then they finally revealed it. But yeah, Nick, good game today. We missed the boring part of it, and we were able to catch the very exciting tail end. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a home run. Dalton Varsho gave them a little bit of breathing room, hitting a home run when they were tied at 1-1. And this was just another good performance offensively, albeit against the Tigers. But Jack Flaherty has been having a really good season so far for them. He's been striking out a lot of hitters, and the Jays managed to tag him for 3 runs, and then the bullpen imploded for them. But Nick, back-to-back games with 9 runs here. No one's going to be complaining about that. If you are, I suggest you start supporting another team because this is about as good as it gets. And today was pretty good. And hopefully they can offer up some more of these performances. But they've responded after some comments from Kevin Gausman saying that, this could be it. This could be the last year that we see with this group. And some comments of Ross Atkins saying the time is now in his makeshift press conference that he had the other day. And the time is now for them to start winning. They won 2 in a row after a lackluster game against Garrett Crochet and the White Sox. And here we go.
Yeah, coming into this, it seemed to be a pretty rough matchup with Jack Flaherty against the Toronto Blue Jays, a pitcher who's been off to a very hot start. But ultimately, the Jays did exactly what they had to do against the whole Detroit Tigers team. A quick reminder, hit the subscribe button before we get into it. It would mean the world to Peter and myself. But yeah, I mean, you get into it, and we can start with the hitting. The bats are starting to pick up. Obviously, it's been really hit or miss. I saw a graphic, I think it was yesterday, from the top 4 hitters. Like, they went 8 for 15 with tons of RBIs, and they went 0 for 14, and then yesterday they did great, and then today, again, the top 4 combines for 7 hits. Davis Schneider going hitless, but Vladdy hit a home run. He's on fire now. Danny Jansen's been on fire the whole year, and really the star of the past couple weeks has been Bo Bichette, who's finally starting to pick it up really on both ends on offense and defense, and we knew that it was we were hoping it was a matter of time until the offense finally starts to pick it up. And again, they got shut out on 2 hits by Garrett Crochet the other day. Crochet is a great pitcher, but it's about consistency. And aside from that one game, really, if you look at the sample size over the past little bit, the Jays are playing significantly better.
Yes, absolutely. And Daniel Vogelbach should have had a home run today as well, except he trotted out of the box, and it ended up being the longest single I've ever seen. But yeah, Nick, we're seeing some really good signs out of this offense here. It's great to see Vladdy get back on the board with a couple of extra base hits. They hit a double and then that home run later on in the game. And yeah, like you said, Bo Bichette has really been the star of the show. But I want to give some more love to Dalton Varsho. And I know he went 1 for 4, but that home run changed the complexion of that ball game.
Yeah.
It was 1-1. It was a pitcher's duel. Kevin Gausman had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning. Jack Flaherty had 9 strikeouts, I believe, when his day was all said and done. And then Dalton Varsho just tagged him for that 2-run home run, and that's what shifted the game. That was the turning point of that game right there when Varsho made it 3-1, hit it over Kerry Carpenter into the right field bleachers, and it was a good night from there for the Detroit Tigers. And it's great to see him swinging it in the 7 hole. I think that's the place for him. I don't know if I want him in the number 2 spot. I'm glad that Danny Jansen has settled in nicely to that spot. But Nick, what do you think of Dalton Varsho just staying in that 7 spot? Doesn't matter what kind of production you're getting out of him. I think that's what he's best suited for, and that's where he's had the most success so far this season.
Yeah, you look at the kind of the way the lineup has been playing. Danny Jansen makes total sense in the 2 spot. Obviously, it's not traditional to have your catcher as in the spot where you want arguably your best hitter in that 2 hole, but I think the top 4 has to stay this way for the foreseeable future because we've seen now over the past few games it's been working every single time. And Dalton Varsho, yes, he's been very good this season at times, but having him in the two spot, who's going to get some of the most at bats every game, I think not only is it better for the team, it's a bit better for Dalton Varsho to have less pressure down there. Yeah, I mean, I agree. 7 spots, fine. Even 6, like I'm not worried about that. I just don't want to see him in the top 4 unless he's on an absolute heater. But even then, I'd almost rather just keep it
But
as
we
is.
saw that, right?
Yeah,
Like we saw him be the best hitter for a specific period of time for the Jays. Then nobody was hitting, so they thrust Dalton Varsho into a top 2 role, and he can't handle it. Some guys are just not middle of the order bats. Some guys are not number 2 hitters. He doesn't draw enough walks, and he doesn't make enough contact to be in that spot. So I like him where he is. And again, he's had multiple game-changing hits throughout the season. We remember against Colorado in that series where he hit 2 home runs. We remember those big time hits that he's had. He's come up in some big spots, but he's a little bit inconsistent. He's there for his defense. He's there for his elite base running, and that's what he provides on a nightly basis. But if he could do what he did today in the 7th hole on a consistent basis, and sign me up, man. And this lineup is really starting to take shape. It really is. Vogelbach too is really starting to swing it. With Justin Turner going cold, I think it was the right time for him to start getting hot and get into the lineup, and we saw that again today. It paid off slightly. So again, seen some really positive signs out of the offense, Nick. Very encouraging. The question is, can they keep it going? And it's the Tigers as well. It's another cellar dweller type of team that you should be beating up on. But how many times have we said that in the past couple of years with the Jays, and then they go get 2 hit by some no-name pitcher? So yeah, you got to take care of business, but you actually got to go out there and do it. You can't talk about having to beat the worst teams and having to beat up on the teams that are bad and not as good as you. You got to go out there and prove that you can do it. And the Jays have done that lately. Got to keep this offense going. Kevin Gausman threw a gem today, and it might have been in jeopardy for a little bit, but that offense just stepped up, man, and it was great to see.
and the bullpen was able to save Jordan Romano and Jimmy Garcia, which could be very important going forward. But I mean, this is the framework
Yeah.
for the game and for the Toronto Blue Jays team that has the potential to make the playoffs, has the potential to make some noise in the playoffs if they can continue. And we said it all offseason. We said it at the start of the season. It's all ultimately about Vladdy and Bo. And you can see that here. When they play well, the Jays will win games because then you don't have to rely on guys like Dalton Varsho. But they can still have times where they perform even though they aren't being relied on. Because when you're relying on Dalton Varsho to carry your offense because of how bad everyone else is, you're going to lose a lot of games. Not that Dalton Varsho's a bad hitter. He's not going to be a 900 OPS guy. And that's what Vladdy's
No.
supposed to be. That's what Bo's supposed to be. And George Springer, he's kind of finding his own in the 6th spot as well. I think it's just at the point now where Springer isn't the hitter he used to be, which is perfectly fine. He's still a very serviceable MLB player. And yeah, quick shout out to Kevin Gausman and the bullpen for holding it down. A lot of positive signs, and I don't know. We just keep moving on, and they're going to have games. They're going to have stinker games where they get 2 hits against some certain players, even if it's the White Sox. It's about how they responded, and how they responded tells me a lot more than that one specific game, even though in the grand scheme of things this season, the offense has been poor.
Yeah.
But that one little blip, I still have faith in this offense right now. Like, they've been good for a while, but that's very scary to say because they've been also bad for a while as well.
I get what you're saying, Nick, that it was a little blip on the radar considering the way that they've been playing lately, but it's not. It's happened far too often in these past couple of years that the Jays just have a stinker and then follow it up with a good game, and then they revert back to ground zero. So yeah, maybe it was a blip on the radar considering how well the past week has gone for them, but can't be anymore. I get that it is going to happen on some nights. Some nights you're just not going to have it, but it's got to happen a lot less than it does to this Blue Jays team. Because yeah, it does happen where Garrett Crochet is throwing 100 miles an hour and there's just nothing you can do. John Schneider was right. You had to tip your cap to Garrett Crochet that night because he was on fire and there was nothing you could have done to stop it. But it doesn't just happen against guys that throw 100 miles an hour. It happens against guys that are painting 88 on the corner and make you look stupid for 9 innings. So you got to try to find a way to limit those stinkers like you're talking about, and you got to be more consistent. That's just what it comes down to. I like what I've seen when it's the really, really good of the Blue Jays because the really good is 9+ runs and everyone getting in on the action, but the really bad is also getting 2 hit against a guy that should not be getting a two-hitter in Major League Baseball. So you got to try to find a middle ground there. How good can your bat be? That's the question with the Jays, and they've yet to answer that, but we're seeing some positive signs here, and I think this can be sustainable, especially the way that Vladdy and Bo have been swinging it lately.
Yeah, 3 wins out of the last 4 games. We'll take that for now, and hopefully they can continue to chip away at that wild card spot. And really, the goal right now is to get back to 500. Hopefully, they can do that again tomorrow when they play the Detroit Tigers. And hopefully, there's no audio, TV, weird power outages like there was today. But thank you guys for watching. Check out our video from yesterday. Click on your screen now. See you soon.